At least 17 people, nearly all of whom were women and children, were reportedly killed in an Israeli airstrike on a school-turned-shelter. Weekend elections in Georgia could decide the future of the country and whether it ultimately joins the European Union. The head of the European Commission is expected to arrive in Serbia as part of a tour of the Balkans promoting EU enlargement. An Israeli strike on a school sheltering displaced people in Gaza reportedly killed at least 17 people, nearly all of whom were women and children, according to Palestinian medical officials. Amongst the dead were 13 children under the age of 18 and 3 women, hospital records show. The Israeli military said it targeted Hamas militants inside the school without providing evidence. Israel has carried out several strikes on schools turned shelters in recent months, saying it precisely targets militants hiding out amongst civilians. These strikes often kill women and children. The strike came as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Israel had achieved its target of effectively dismantling Hamas and that negotiations over a ceasefire would resume in the coming days.
Vice President Kamala Harris rallied in Georgia on Thursday, an important battleground state where she hopes to win over black voters. With less than 2 weeks until Election Day, the race between Harris and Trump is as tight as ever. Polls show conflicting predictions, with Harris narrowly leading some and Trump others. In her speech, Harris had harsh words for her election opponent, comparing him to the predators, fraudsters, and repeat offenders she prosecuted in her early career.
In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds: predators, fraudsters, and repeat offenders. I took them on and I won. Well, Georgia, in 12 days, it's Donald Trump's turn.
Biden's campaign won Georgia in 2020, becoming the first Democratic presidential candidate to win the southern state since Bill Clinton in 1992. Harris was joined by Bruce Springsteen and also shared the stage with former President Barack Obama for the first time in her campaign, who also did not hold back in his attacks on Trump, calling him a wannabe king and dictator. Harris's campaign is hopeful she can keep Georgia blue in 2024.
Georgia is heading to the polls on Saturday in a parliamentary election many citizens believe will be the most crucial vote of their lifetimes. The election will pit a coalition of opposition parties against the ruling Georgian dream, which many fear is dragging the nation towards authoritarianism and away from the European Union. Brussels put Georgia's bid for entry to the EU on hold indefinitely in August after the ruling government passed a Russian law cracking down on freedom of speech earlier this year. Georgian Dream argue it needed to curb harmful foreign actors trying to destabilize the country. But journalists and activists say its true goal is to stigmatize them and restrict debate before the election. Many Georgians fear that if the Georgian Dream Party is re-elected, hopes of joining the EU could be permanently extinguished.
Bulgarians are heading to the polls on Sunday for the 7th time in 3 years. Bulgaria is in dire need of a period of stable government to accelerate the flow of EU funds in recovery and resilience plan payments, and to speed up the process to join the euro. Ever since mass anti-corruption protests in 2020 toppled Bulgaria's center-right government, a series of elections led to unstable and unsuccessful coalitions led by centrist and right-wing parties. Nikolai Denko, former prime minister and leader of the We Continue the Change coalition, said a series of laws relating to climate and corruption need to be passed as soon as possible and sent to the European Commission. The last elections were held in June when turnout stood at a record low of 34%. The latest polls suggest not much will change, with the same three parties in the lead. The current coalition's GERB party, whose leader is Bulgaria's longest-serving prime minister since the fall of the Soviet Union, is expected to win the most votes. The pro-Russian right-wing Revival Party is also growing, with approval for the EU reaching an all-time low in Bulgaria at 46%. All the running party leaders have held their final pitches in the lead-up to Sunday's vote.
Russian forces are pushing to enter Selidovo, trying to claim control over parts of the town, Ukrainian military says, noting that on Wednesday only Moscow attacked the town 19 times using a large number of infantry. Now, the Institute for the Study of War confirms Russia's significant tactical advances into and around Selidovo in recent days, noting that Moscow's focus on securing Selidovo has come at an expense of Russian forces' ability to sustain a meaningful offensive drive directly on Pokrovsk, Russia's top priority in this area. Geolocated footage shows that Russian forces have advanced in northeastern and eastern Selidovo towards the center of the town. They have also pushed here from the south. The Institute for the Study of War states that these advances may soon cause Ukrainian troops to withdraw from the area to avoid being trapped within a collapsing pocket. Ukraine's Prosecutor General Office reported that Russian soldiers killed 4 captured Ukrainian servicemen near Selidovo. Taken prisoners during a Russian attack on the 6th of October, they were filmed during the interrogation and then killed, Kyiv investigators report. Selidovo is not Russia's operational objective on this part of the front, so Ukraine's decision to defend the settlement has likely fixed a relatively large contingent of Russian troops on the southern flank of Pokrovsk, which is Russia's primary and operationally meaningful objective in the area. The Institute for the Study of War assesses that Russia may well take Selidovo in the coming days, but it wouldn't mean that Pokrovsk will be captured next. In fact, the seizure of Selidovo is likely to have exhausted Russian forces and reduced their combat effectiveness if they are ordered to pivot towards Pokrovsk.
After months of rumors, Auchan is seemingly set to depart from Russia as it becomes increasingly burdened by the weight of EU sanctions against Moscow. Media reports show that the French supermarket chain owned by the Mullier family narrowed down its options to 2 buyers and that they're in the final stages of negotiations. The retail giant's Russian subsidiary have said they will not comment on the rumors, but if rumors are true, Auchan would join the list of over 1,000 companies that curtailed operations in Russia following Moscow's full-scale invasion into Ukraine. The retail giant built up a loyal customer base after operating in Russia for more than 20 years and previously refused to leave as they claimed they did not want to penalize the local community. It is said that the retailer is also looking to withdraw from Hungary, but will remain in Ukraine.
Enlargement will remain.
President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen is expected to arrive in Serbia as part of a tour of the Balkans promoting EU enlargement. Von der Leyen's expected visit to Serbia comes only a day after visiting Bosnia and Herzegovina as well as North Macedonia. Whilst in North Macedonia, von der Leyen said the country had made great progress in implementing reforms necessary to join the EU. Von der Leyen said the EU was committed to its enlargement plans and it will be the Union's top priority. The Commission President also visited a central Bosnian village after it was devastated by recent floods and landslides, saying the EU stood with the country. After the disaster claimed 27 lives, Bosnia sought EU aid and many countries sent teams to help through the EU's civil protection mechanism.
During his visit to Belgrade, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said Poland supports Serbia's inclusion into the European Union. Tusk's meeting with Serbian President Alexander Vučić comes ahead of Poland's presidency of the Council starting in January. The Polish Prime Minister said EU enlargement, including close relations with Serbia, will be a key focus during Poland's presidency of bloc.
Bez Srbije Europska Unia nije kompletna. Pozdrawiam ekonomski uspech Srbije. Ekonomski, jaka Srbija je dobić za Europsku uniju.
Tusk believes their conversation will act as an incentive to encourage cooperation between the EU and Serbia. He also acknowledged Serbia's efforts to help Ukraine despite their different stances on sanctioning Russia.
President of the European Parliament Roberta Metsola met with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to discuss the main issues facing Europe. The European leaders discussed topics ranging from Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine to the crisis in the Middle East and the situation in Venezuela. Metsola made an appearance on local radio following the meeting to share what had been addressed. She described how solutions to immigration issues facing Europe must be found and said neither Malta nor Italy should be made to feel alone, as the management of migratory flows was a European challenge. The European Parliament head also stressed the importance of the EU continuing to call for de-escalation in the Middle East, as well as continued humanitarian aid. Metsola also said Italy's pick for the European Commission, Raffaele Fitto, would do an excellent job as Commissioner and highlighted the importance of giving Vice Presidency to Italy.
Euronews. The news